This video presents a Motivic analysis of two cues from Jurassic Park, the soundtrack for which was composed by John Williams. On open music theory, we have already defined motive as a short and regularly recurring unit of music. And one such motive is very easy to hear in the main theme from Jurassic Park. So just in case you don't remember what that sounds like, here's just the beginning of it. And sometimes in the past when I've asked students to do a motivic analysis of this cue, they've circled that entire fragment that I've just played and labeled it a motive. But that's a little bit too big. And the reason, or the way that I know that, is because part of the definition of motive is that it recurs throughout the number and is transformed. And that little fragment that I just played, it doesn't really get transformed in a substantial way across the number. What does get transformed is just the little neighbor motive that's part of the melody. So that actually comes in here. Just the top part, the B flat, A, B flat. Right? We hear that come back over and over throughout the melody, and one place that it gets very obviously transformed is right before the cadence. So that occurs right here. And I'll play this part for you, and what you'll hear is overlapping successive statements of the motive. So I'm going to actually start just before this passage begins. There's a little B flat A, and then we'll hit the B flat. So it looks like this, B flat A right before that B flat. So you'll hear the first statement there, then you'll hear another one here, here, and here, right? So it sounds like this. Right. So over and over again, we get this little lower neighbor motive that recurs throughout. And each time it comes back, it's been transposed, right? So the first statement begins on B flat, and I'll label that one X. Then when it comes back on its way to the cadence, we get it an octave higher, but I think since it's still the same pitches, it's safe to label it X as well. Then the next statement begins on F, so I'll label that one X prime, where the prime symbol means it's varied from its original statement. You might also instead label this XT for transposed, so X has been transposed. Either way, just go with whichever method your teacher prefers. Then we get it on E flat, so that would be X double prime or X transposed again. And then we get it on C, so X triple prime, or once again, X transposed. So that's one pretty obvious motive that recurs in the main theme. One that's a little bit less obvious occurs in the cue, or a portion of the cue from Journey to the Island. So this one, this cue, we first hear it when the helicopter is starting to approach the island, and it sounds like this. And here the little motive that comes back in a less obvious way than the motive that was in the main theme is this leap of a fifth that begins the melody. So I'll label that X, and we actually get it again right away transposed, and I'll label that one X prime. So we get as our initial statement and then a transposed version, right? And then we're off to the rest of the melody. So where that comes back is actually in the middle section of this cue. So the whole cue is in three parts. The first part we might label A. That's the part that I just played for you. Then we get a B theme, and then we actually get the A theme back toward the end. And so this music here comes from the B theme, and it sounds like this. And where I'm hearing a connection here is the beginnings of these little ideas. Okay, so both of these are leaps of a fourth rather than a leap of a fifth. But I think that they're related in the sense that the interval of a fourth is the inversion of a fifth, right? So we can say that there's some kind of relationship. But also they're related in terms of their rhythmic placement, right? So motive X begins on the and of one, and these, which I'll call X prime, or actually I'll call them X double prime and X triple prime. These ones also begin on the and of one. So I think there's a little bit of a connection there, and they also leap to a strong beat, which I think helps us make that connection there. So that one's maybe a little bit of a less obvious connection than the main theme. So that's a motivic analysis of two cues from Jurassic Park.